from New Zealand and 2 local brothers from New Zealand and all the cities and villages of New Zealand. 50-50 and counting the value of unpaid work of women and men in their family and community and the value of nature, and recognized in a national, regional gender tender which is merged and become a universal one for the planet Earth. And these are recommendations that are commandments now, because the Earth cannot be deceived by the failed elections in the United States and the failed media in the United States that has been dragging everyone down. We say to Hillary Clinton, either be a co-secretarial general and find sister co-secretary generals to be with you in the government with Mr. Obama, or get out of the way. And we say the same thing to the 16% women senators in the United States. Either call yourself co-presidents, dating back to 1984, if you wish, when this country very regressively ignored Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro and went for a father figure instead of for balance of gender in government. We have to evolve. We have to evolve. And it isn't optional. It's a necessity for the protection of life on planet Earth. So we say to these women, call yourself co-secretary generals, distribute yourself at all levels of government, ensure that there's 50-50 in Congress, or get out of the way and let the women of your country be called co-secretary generals of the national, regional, towns and cities, and constituent state and all levels of government of the national region of the United States, as part of a global government that observes these rules. The United States has been dragging the entire world down. It has been causing a ripple effect that has been deceiving the women of India to think that they can only ask for 33% because their sit-ins for 33% were so ignored in the United States. Those women have gotten 50-50 in Panchayat Raj now, and 50-50 is the true government of India, and we call all the women of India co-secretary generals now. And we will adjust the Raj Sabha and the Lok Sabha to match that over time, but until they do, the women and all the men of India who shall no longer be held back by the ignorance of the United States shall be called co-secretary generals. And this is true for every government in the world, and I will name the regional governments. We call on Sisterhood and Brotherhood for Afghanistan, 50-50 and co-secretary generals at every village level and the national regional level. Albania, Algeria, Andorra. Andorra already has 50-50 and has exceeded it. Angola, Antigua and Barbuda. Argentina is very close. We say to Mrs. Kirchner, get yourself another female sister and 2 brothers and run the government together. And you will be practicing true sisterhood and brotherhood, and we congratulate you for the gender improvement you've already made for Argentina. Argentina is a leader and should be recognized. Armenia, Australia. Australia has no business having Queen Elizabeth be its head of state. Australia needs to find 2 female co-secretary generals, and we say that Prime Minister Julia Gillard should find 1 other woman and 2 men and run the country as co-secretary generals and at least 50-50. But until then, the women of Australia are in co-secretary general receivership at all levels of regional and village government, and they shall be called the true leaders of Australia until enough men come forward to make 50-50. And the same for the Bahamas, the same for Bahrain, the same for Bangladesh, The same for Barbados. These are all national regional areas. The same for Belarus. The same for Belgium. The same for Belize. The same for Benin. The same for Bhutan. The same for Bolivia. The same for Bosnia and Herzegovina. The same for Botswana. The same for the national region called Brazil, which we congratulate on having Dilma Rousseff as breaking the gender balance ceiling, but she needs to also call forth a sister and two brothers to have true sisterhood and brotherhood in office, and at least 50-50 of females. We say the governments can exceed 50% of females for a while, until enough men can be found who will meet 50-50. The women of the world have been out of government so long that they can have a little excess, yes, just as they are in Rwanda and Andorra, until 50-50 is achieved. And we call all of the generations of Brazil of women co-secretary generals back into that country's ancient history. The same with Brunei, Bulgaria, Burkina Faso, Burma, Myanmar. Myanmar has a great woman who was imprisoned. She is the co-secretary general of that country, and she should pick a sister and two brothers and encourage all of the women of the villages of Myanmar to know that they are co-secretary generals, and we do recognize them as co-secretary generals, and any men of Myanmar who will come forward for 50-50 are the true co-secretary generals under sisterhood and brotherhood. Burundi, Cambodia, Cameroon. Canada also has been lagging. We do not recognize Queen Elizabeth as the head of state of Canada. We say that Canada has women like Kim Campbell and many others in their government already who are co-secretary generals. And we say to Mr. Harper, pick an additional brother and make sure that your national regional legislature derives from all the villages and towns of Canada, and they are all 50-50 and follow our model. Cape Verde, Central African Republic, Chad, Chile. Michelle Bachelet was president for a while, but again didn't achieve 50-50 because the United States was dragging Chile down. It was dragging everyone down. We say that Chile has had 50-50 in the eyes of Mother, Father, God. God is God. And that Chile recognizes the leadership of Michelle Bachelet, and she is not an undersecretary general to Ki Ban-moon. She is a full-fledged co-secretary general to Mr. Ki Ban-moon, unless he wants to get out of the way. And he has to find her and pick another woman with the General Assembly of the United Nations and transform it according to our model. Or we say the women of the world, the common women of the world, are the co-secretary generals, and the men who come forward is 50-50, are the true united family community of Earth, and the United Nations will have to transform itself to meet these guidelines and these commandments. Costa Rica. We have a woman head of Costa Rica, Laura Chichilla, and we congratulate her on breaking the gender barrier. And Oscar Arias and Margarita Arias Penan brought forth great improvement in the numbers of women in Costa Rica. And Costa Rica has been one of the wisest countries in the world, along with Switzerland, to have no army. And we treasure Costa Rica as a peace culture. And we say only that Mrs. Chichilla, should find an additional sister and two brothers, and be sure that all the cities and villages of Costa Rica are 50-50, at least that many women, and men who come forward for 50-50. And until then, all the women of Costa Rica are the co-secretary generals of the national region. And the same with Colombia, Congo, Comoros, Cote d'Ivoire, Croatia, Cuba, which is close to 50-50, and we say that it's time that Castro pick two sisters and name a brother And be sure that all the villages and governments, constituent governments